This episode is part of the Relationship Archetype Series, and today we are looking at the Wind Archetype, also known as the Avoidant Attachment Style. So, this episode is for you if you are someone who has scored the Wind Archetype as a result from the What's Your Relationship Archetype quiz, or you want to know more about the Avoidant Attachment Style. So, let's go. Welcome to the Relationship Rehab Podcast. I'm Sammy, a certified breakup and relationship coach, attachment specialist, former love addict, and spiritual junkie. This podcast is for you, the hopeless romantic who loves to love, and a safe space for us to explore and heal our attachment trauma, broken hearts, and love addictions. Together, we are on a mission to become the love of our own lives, so we can have successful, healthy, secure relationships with others. So if you're ready to create a life and love beyond your wildest desires, you're in the right place. Your journey towards becoming more secure in love and life starts now. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to another episode on the Relationship Rehab Podcast. And this is part 2 of the Relationship Archetype Series. So I'm putting this together to go through all the different archetypes that we tend to take on when we are in relationships or dating or even in life in general as well. So, part 1, we looked at the ocean archetype, also known as the anxious attachment style. And in this episode, we're looking at the wind archetype, the avoidant attachment style. So, you're here either because you identify with an avoidant attachment style or you have a partner who has an avoidant attachment style and you want to know and understand them a little bit more. So, I'm hoping to help you out here in this episode to be able to develop that understanding, create some self-awareness and how to not only be in relationship with someone who's avoidant, but if you are an avoidant, how to start healing that attachment style so you can become more secure in your relationship as well. All right, so let's dive in. So the wind archetype, the avoidance of our society. Now, these beauties are also known as the lone wolves. They really value their independence. They're the hyper independent ladies as well that are really focused on personal growth. And it's so interesting for me when I work with clients with an avoidant attachment. They're very few and far between. I feel like I mostly work with more the anxiously attached individuals. But when I do work with avoidance, it's very interesting because they go all in and they really value their personal growth and awareness, building that up. But once they get over that hump of like, oh, like I am an avoidant, and not only am I avoidant, but I can see that I need to make some changes in my life if I am going to feel comfortable, safe, secure in relationships. So once they get to that spot, it's honestly no stopping them. And that's not an invitation now to go and pressure your avoidant partner. It really does need to come from them, because pressuring them, wanting to change them in some way, is actually going to drive them away. They need to reach that stage by themselves. And when they do, it's actually amazing to witness their progress into becoming more secure. Okay, so let's start with how avoidant attachment actually developed in the first place. So if you've listened to the first episode, you will know a little bit about attachment theory, but for just this episode and the sake of keeping it short and sweet, the avoidant child has learned somewhere along the way, because of the way that they are in connection with their parents or their caregivers, is that their needs are not being met at a consistent basis. So how it typically goes for the more avoidant child is they reach out to their partner and their caregiver wanting to get their needs met, because children, they don't know how to meet them for themselves. But in return, they've even got dismissed, humiliated for having needs in some way, or their needs were just not met for whatever reason. Emotionally distant parents, not physically present. There's a bunch of reasons why that could happen. And what that child has then learned, or how they cope to be in this environment, is that they cannot trust or depend on these people to meet their needs. They can only trust and depend on themselves. So they start to develop coping mechanisms to keep people at arm's length, and they can only depend on themselves. Because if I start to ask for my needs to be met, if I start to depend and rely on other people, I'm going to get hurt in the process. I'm going to be let down. I'm going to be disappointed. And this then starts to show up when they are in close relationships with others. I also want to note that, yes, it can come from childhood, but it can also come from going through some traumatic toxic relationships as well, because I have seen in my work more anxiously attached or even securely attached people going into the avoidant camp because they have been so hurt and let down. So they have then developed avoidant coping mechanisms to protect themselves, to protect their heart from being broken again. And they then apply these coping mechanisms and shut down basically from being open to allowing love to come through again because of what has happened in the past. So if this is where you feel like you're at, it's about healing those past relationship traumas and being able to drop down those walls, those barriers, and open your heart again. It's a process, and it's not an easy one either, but it's for sure doable. I am so much in the opinion that avoidance can become secure. They absolutely can have happy, healthy relationships with close intimacy with others. I have seen it for myself, and there is a lot of noise on the internet that really believe that they cannot. And I'm not saying like a lot of them are shut down to their emotions, to being open to figuring out how they can make this happen for themselves, but it is possible. Again, not an invitation to now take it upon yourself to make it possible for an avoidant partner. They really do need to reach that space by themselves. All right, so why they have been given the wind relationship archetype? Because they are very much like the wind. When I gave them this archetype, I had in my mind like they are pretty much like gone like the wind. Because one of their biggest coping mechanisms is to be in a flight state, in a flight emotional state. And this is because they're trying to protect themselves from becoming too close to others. So how this looks is that they start to withdraw. They will create some distance from that person or situation or relationship that is triggering. And you start to seek for some sort of peace and harmony again, because this is one of your biggest needs if you're an avoidantly attached individual. You don't want drama. You don't like drama in a relationship. You're always seeking that peace. So when things start to feel unstable or unsafe, the urge to withdraw becomes stronger and stronger than your ability to communicate what's actually happening with you. And I'll go into a little bit at the end of the episode of how to start healing an avoidant attachment style, but that's one of them really is learning how to communicate what you need and what you're feeling. And also, just like the wind, you value your freedom so much. Having a sense of freedom and independence is such a priority for you. You thrive in the world when you are by yourself. You have complete autonomy and choice over your life, and you like to move freely and love spending time alone. You really love it. And you tend to feel quite trapped or suffocated in committed relationships or in environments and spaces where there's a lot of people. You see them as quite restrictive and that they are invading your life, your space, your environment. And like the air, you are calm and easy breezy. If you have ever been in a relationship with an avoidant, you will know that they love to say things like, oh, let's just go with the flow. Like, I'm easygoing. I just like to see where things develop and where we can go. They love to go with the flow. And they will also do anything to keep the peace. So what I noticed in an avoidant client of mine is this calm and breezy persona is another coping mechanism that he has developed to keep the peace within the relationship. If you are someone who doesn't like drama or conflict, you will just say yes, oh fine, okay, fine, I'll go along with it, whatever, sure. But really inside, there's this feeling of being powerless and wanting to run away from the whole thing, because you don't even want to be in a space where you have to disagree or be in some sort of conflict or tension with a partner. You'd rather just go with the flow. And you love the quiet. Another thing that I noticed about my avoidant clients is they are social beings, sure, but only their capacity to be social and to be out there is quite limited. Again, this is a very, we have a lot of avoidants out there that are very extroverted as well, and they love to be in social situations. So this is not really an attachment style thing. It's more of a personality thing of whether you are extroverted or introverted. But in my work, I have found that avoidantly attached individuals are more on the introverted side of the spectrum, and anxiously attached are more extroverted because they love being around people. They love that connection. And, it's interesting when you think about the anxious avoidant cycle loop, which again, I will talk about as this episode goes on, but people are attracted to that calm, confident demeanor that you have. You kind of ooze this sense of groundedness and confidence and charm that is actually really attractive to people. And like the wind, you can be unpredictable. So like the wind's unpredictable nature, you enjoy being spontaneous and embracing the unexpected. Really gives you a thrill to not have such, strict plans and routines. Again, people are different. I've also had an avoidant client who does thrive off plans and routine because he knows where he stands with people and he gets to get control. But I have also witnessed spontaneity is something that avoidants love because, again, going with the flow. But when they're in relationships, it typically tends to happen where people don't really know where they stand with you, because maybe you don't even know where you stand in the relationship yourself. Like, you like this person, but you don't want things to really develop into something too serious, because that would mean being intimate, being close, being committed. So instead, you want to keep things in a gray area, because you're getting needs met in some sort of way. Like, you do want that companion, you do want someone in your life, but you want to still keep them at an arm's length. And this can be very confusing to people on the other side. So let me go into a little bit about how avoidant attachment looks like in the moment. So first of all, there's always a trigger. That where even if you're an anxiously attached individual or avoidant, there's always a trigger that for the anxious activates your system, for the avoidant deactivates your system. So this is how it goes. So for example, maybe you go out with someone on the Saturday night and you have a really great date and they sleep over. And then you get triggered by the fact that they're still there in the morning. It's like 10 a.m. They're still in the bed. They haven't brushed their teeth yet. And you're already thinking, like, when are they going to leave? Or maybe they have left already, but now they're texting you constantly and you've got stuff to do. You want them to leave your apartment. You want them to kind of leave you alone. And then what tends to happen is you go into that deactivating space. So you're now wondering, when are they going to leave? Why are they constantly texting me? Don't they have anything else to do? And this then pushes you into your protective coping mechanism of withdrawal, but also kind of looking for flaws of what is wrong with this person. And then this is your way of protecting yourself. And that leads into like a protest behavior, and it's like, I called you a taxi. Yeah, you need to leave now. Or withdrawal from the relationship completely, or just like validating to yourself that these flaws are something that needs a lot of attention. Like, I know for me, when I was dating someone on the avoidance spectrum, I would wear this particular dress and he hated this dress. And every time I wore it, it would it would trigger him so badly. And he's like, can you just not wear that dress? It was one of my favorite dresses. And I was like, oh my gosh. I took it completely personally, of course, because I was more on the anxious side of like, oh my God, he's going to leave me. But then he kind of validated that by saying, oh my God, I can't be with this girl because her fashion style is terrible. And they get turned off very quickly with icks. Like, we hear a lot of this in our social media as well, of like women and men getting the ick about things that are quite small. But for them, they've enlarged and they've blown it up in their own mind. And they typically tend to feel suffocated and trapped and afraid of being controlled when these things start to happen. So that is why they are then applying these coping mechanisms. So when we think about some of the things that triggers you as an avoidantly attached individual, the top triggers that I have seen in my clients so far is in inverted commas needy behavior, of needing constant reassurance, needing to be spoken to every day, needing text messages all day. That can be quite triggering because it can feel very invasive for someone with an avoidant attachment style. When others violate their boundaries, like, boundaries are important to you, they keep you safe in some way, they protect your space, they protect your autonomy. So when you have someone someone who's violating that, whether breaking them completely or trying to bend them, it's not okay for you. When people make decisions emotionally, so again, my clients have said this to me, when they observe their partners or just people around them making decisions from an emotional space, they often think that is something that is not okay. Like, why are you doing that? Decisions need logic. You need to weigh up the pros and cons. You need to operate in this space rather than from an emotional state. And again, when their partners are in an emotional state and trying to make decisions like trying to break up the relationship for whatever reason to trigger the avoidant into doing something, it actually does the opposite. And it makes them withdraw even more because they are actually turned off by the fact that you're making a decision from an emotional state. Avoidant don't like being criticized. So I'm going to go into a little bit about the common subconscious beliefs that an avoidantly attached person would hold. And one of them is that I am defective. There's something wrong with me. I'm a bad person. So when they receive criticism or feedback in some way, they tend to internalize that and shut down. So it's they don't like to be seen as anything other than someone who's got their shit together, basically. If they feel misunderstood, so maybe they're like, oh, this person doesn't get it. What's the point? What's the point in having this conversation right now? They don't even understand me. The person might be like, I want to understand you, like help me understand. But the avoidant individual cannot put into words what's going on with them because they haven't built up that emotional intelligence. So instead they shut down. If they feel pressured in relationships, so if you've been with an avoidant, you will know when those conversations come up of like, okay, so what are we? Like, where are we going with this? Are we exclusive? Are we together? What? That will be like, oh my God, things are happening. Things are getting serious. I feel really pressured right now. And it will trigger them into a deactivating state. Being humiliated or shamed in public. Now, this one has come from my own personal experience being with an avoidant, because I was doing it with a way of like trying to make them change. Again, big trigger for the avoidantly attached. And we typically tend to do that if you're more on the anxious side through criticizing, humiliating, and shaming them about what they're doing and doing it in public. Oh my goodness. That is a big no-no if you are an avoidant attachment, because it's a reflection of your reputation and your image that you're trying to portray to other people. I would shame them for how they were, because I wanted them to change those parts. So for me, it was like the physical intimacy. My love language is touch. And when I was with this avoidant person, like they wouldn't touch me in public. Like they wouldn't hold my hand. They wouldn't put their arm around my shoulder. And I wanted that really badly. And instead of having a healthy conversation about how I can get that need met by him or by myself or however, like working together on it, I would shame him in public for this. It's like, oh, he never holds my hand. I think he's scared, and for them, it's like, that's not okay. Now, all these beliefs, coping mechanism, triggers, characteristics that we've been talking about when it comes to an individual with an avoidant attachment style is all being driven by a fear of intimacy. Intimacy is a scary thing for you because it means becoming close to someone. It means opening up to someone. Where an anxious person would see that being intimate with someone, you gain a lot. You gain a lot of connection. You gain a lot of love. You gain a lot of experience and life. Whereas the avoidantly attached people will see them losing something. So if I'm going to be intimate with this person, I'm going to lose my autonomy. I'm going to lose my freedom. I'm going to lose my ability to move freely in this world. When they are in this state of fear of intimacy, they tend to withdraw. Like I said, they need a lot of space. So I actually watched this on a dating show just a couple of days ago, where the avoidant male was communicating to the more anxious female that when we get on the outside, this was Love Island, so they're in a villa. When we get up on the outside, I am only going to be able to see you like once or twice a week. I have my stuff all going on. I need my space. I need to make, time for my job, my friends. Like, this is how it's going to go. But what I was then seeing with the more anxious female was that was not okay for her. She felt scheduled. She felt like, oh my God, I'm not a priority to you now because you only want to see me once or twice a week, whereas I want to see you every day. So it was very conflicting values and perspectives on what a relationship looks like in terms of being together. casual short-term relationships. So these are the type of people that they love their casual interactions, or relationships that are not full of pressure to have labels, for example. So if I'm going to be with someone who's okay with me not calling them my girlfriend, they can be with this person for years as long as the label is not there. They do this to keep them at bay and to not fully go into that commitment. And it's important to know, if you are someone who does value commitment, it means something to you, and you almost need that label because that's what it represents, to not compromise yourself to be with someone who's more avoidant just because they're scared of the labels. No, it's on them as well to explore that, what those labels actually mean to them, and how they can start to pull back on that fear of commitment and not see it as this big, massive, scary thing. They tend to be a little bit dismissive of feelings or experiences. I got really emotional because my partner and I, we went to a botanical garden, and what I didn't know is in this botanical garden was also an elephant camp, and we had to walk through the elephant camp in Thailand, and the elephants were like mentally disturbed. They were banging their heads against the walls, they were chained up. It was so horrible for me to witness that, and it got me super emotional. And I came to him and I was like, this is how I'm feeling. Like, it was just so horrible, and I feel like I can't go ahead with the day until I address these feelings that I'm feeling. But instead of being that person to support me with that, what I do remember is being dismissed for feeling that way. I was being said things like, don't be so silly, like that's ridiculous. So there's like this almost like a lack of empathy bubbling under the surface, because they don't understand, like, how can you get so emotional over something that I wouldn't get emotional over? We're talking about quite unconscious avoidance as well. So if you're here, you may have seen that before in your past, but if you're here, like, you're here to learn and to grow and to change. So I'm saying all these things to identify a somewhat unhealed, unconscious avoidant as well that you may have recognized in your past. But then when you start to become more aware of this avoidant side of you, you start to see how you can be less dismissive of other people's feelings and experiences and be more validating. And that's always such a beautiful thing to watch. Avoidants tend to prioritize their friendships, their careers, their own space first before a romantic relationship. A romantic relationship is something that they can have, achieve, give space to when everything else is lined up, when they got their ducks in a row in every other area of their life. Whereas the more anxiously attached individual, the relationship comes first, and then they can get their ducks in a row in other areas of their life. And avoidants, they tend to have these firm, solid boundaries. But again, like I said, the unconscious avoidant, those boundaries can become walls to keep people out. And I hear this with the anxiously attached individuals. It's like they've built walls around themselves, around their heart, and I just cannot get through to those walls. And it's such a frustrating process, because those partners then feel like they're banging their head against those walls. Like, they are so determined to not let them down. And that could be an example of, like, okay, they have this boundary that on the weekends are just for them, and for to do what they want to do, whether that's sports, music, whatever. And then their partner's like, yeah, but I have this event that's really important to me on the Saturday. Like, is there any way that you can come with me, to support me, to be with me? Like, I see that you don't have anything planned on this weekend. Like, can we compromise on this? And it's like an absolute firm no. I have told you that my weekends are for me and for me only, and I am not willing to compromise on this. And it's like a absolute rigid boundary, even though they could compromise and they could work together as a couple to see, like, okay, how can I continue to have my space for the weekend, but also support my partner in this event that's really important to her. And then another interesting one that I've observed in avoidant client is they typically tend to get turned off when others prioritize their partner. Like, she said to me, when I observe people prioritizing their partner, like, oh, I have to go because my partner wants to have date night tonight, and that's something that's important to us. She actually gets turned off hearing that. And she's like, oh, like, but we're having such a great time here as a friendship group. Why would you now want to leave that to spend date night with your partner? And it was just such an ick for her. And yeah, it's getting turned off with needy behavior. She would observe couples together, and maybe one of those individuals in the couple would be quite needy. Oh my gosh, I need a hug right now. I'm not feeling too good. Or I just want to go home. I'm not feeling too good. And she would observe that and get instantly turned off as well. And difficult to depend and rely on others. They tend to have this opinion that they can do it better themselves. So I see this with an avoidant who's trying to allow their male partner to take over some of the decisions and to do some of the things. And so part of the coaching was, okay, we need to lean out so they can lean in and step up into their masculine and be able to make these decisions and be able to lead you in a way. But then it kind of backfired because part of her didn't allow him to fully step in, because she has still had this belief of, I can do this better than him. Like, I should just do it. I should just do all this decision making and be in that masculine energy, because it's pointless allowing him to do it. I can do it better. The last one is super interesting, is idealizing past relationships. If you're an avoidant, you may find that you are idealizing previous relationships or periods of your life when you were single as a defense mechanism to avoid current relational issues. So if you're going through something with a current partner, you may then start to think about your ex and how easy it was with them, when really there were issues present there as well. It's just conveniently being forgotten about. I know another avoidant friend of mine would always talk about this guy, the one that got away. She was idealizing, oh my gosh, he was just like so amazing. And if only, I leaned in a little bit more. Funnily enough, he came back into her life and she just kind of went back into a deactivating avoidant space. All right, so let's get into some of the ways that you can address and heal an avoidant attachment style. One of the hardest things to do that I see in my avoidant clients is communicating what you need. For all the things that we talked about conflict avoidant and wanting to keep the peace, it's about addressing those first and foremost. But if you need, them to leave your apartment in the morning, instead of falling into that protest behavior of like ordering in the cab and then being like, I'm absolutely not engaging in that connection anymore, like they're too needy, they're texting me all the time now and I'm just going to withdraw. Instead, communicate like, hey, I've got a lot on today. Is it possible that we can order you a cab now, and I would love to see you again soon? Being clear about it. Or if this person is constantly texting you like, hey, I noticed that you're really wanting some connection and closeness right now, but I'm in work, I'm busy, I'm doing this, but I will get back to you tonight. So it's not about seeing the behavior and running away from it, but seeing the behavior and being like, okay, how can I be clear about what I'm needing right now so I don't fall into a deactivating strategy of withdrawal? And I know why this can be so hard is because avoidants are very afraid of hurting that person on the other end. They're afraid of being seen weak or as bad, or that person will see them as there's something wrong with them. So instead, I don't want to say this because I don't want them to be hurt. And the last time I said this, they flipped out and they got defensive. So I may as well just keep quiet. What I will say about that is, one, the person on the other end needs to do some healing work around that defensiveness coping mechanism that they have, but also keep communicating what you need. Is there a way that we can change the way that you're communicating it, and not to be so afraid of hurting that person, and to not be so in control of the outcome, but to release and to be able to see, how can I communicate this in a way that is gentle and support my partner in working through their own coping mechanisms? The second one is overriding the negative bias. So our brain, this ancient piece of machinery that we have, is always striving to keep us safe and to meet our needs. And it's not really formed or developed in a way for us to be in our modern society. So part of this ancient machinery that we have is to tend to go into the negative, and that's what's keeping us safe. We're always in a hypervigilant state to look for triggers, to look for all these negative things that we may class as red flags and that we need to run away from, especially if you're an avoidant. So when you start to see yourself going into this negative space of looking for triggers, looking for flaws, and ruminating about what's wrong with this individual or the relationship as a whole, Know that this is being done to protect yourself, because it can feel so valid in the moment. Like, I absolutely need to get myself away from this individual because she's going to take up all my autonomy, when really she may just be asking to hang out on the Friday night. So 1, applying some reality to the situation. And 2, to focus on the positive. So flipping the script, if you will, and focusing on what you like about them rather than those flaws. So maybe it's like, oh, I like that they are prioritizing time for me. I like that she looked really cute in that dress. Like, she looked really good. Or he bought me some flowers and let me know that I'm special. So focusing on the positives as opposed to the icks. And just know that this is sometimes used as an excuse to not get close to someone, to keep them at arm's length, because you're being afraid of being hurt and rejected, as you were probably in your childhood or past relationship traumas. Opening up and relying on others is super scary. You're going to be hurt. You're going to be let down. This is the story that is going on in your mind right now. And it's about being with those stories and reframing them. And the last one is to know what partner is best for you in order to heal the avoidant parts of you. And again, this goes for the more anxiously attached person as well. When we tend to fall into the anxious avoidant loop, that's when shit hits the fan, basically. That's when we trigger each other so much, but again, we're so attracted to each other as well. And I'm going to do a whole episode on that. But when we are in such a triggered state, it can sometimes feel exciting, like they keep us on our toes, and we want to be able to lean into this because this is maybe what we feel like relationships need to look like. And when we're triggered, we're in the danger zone, and avoidants tend to want to run away, and the anxious wants to get closer, and we're just in this dance. We're just stuck in this dance. So instead, going for someone that's more on the secure side. Again, also goes for all individuals, but consciously choosing someone that makes you feel safe. And for you, the avoidant individual, people that provide intellectual stimulation is a big turn on for you, because they give you that consistent learning and growth element of what you value. Someone who's able to manage your big need for space, someone who's not going to get so triggered by that, and to be able to give you that positive reinforcement, make you feel valued and respected and accepts you as you are. And your ideal partner is someone who doesn't solely depend on you or rely on you, and they have their own life outside of you as well, that they are able to lean into when you are taking your own space and in your own life as well. You've got individual things going on in your life, and there's mutual respect around that as well. Lastly, just wanted to say a little bit about people with a secure attachment, because I see it all the time with my clients and within myself as well when I was doing this work. Like, it sounds amazing. We want to call it in. We want this type of person in our lives. But when they come, we often see them as boring or too nice. We get the ick, or we get a bit repelled by their secure behavior in some way. But these are the people we need to be leaning into, because these are the people that can really show us how to be in a happy, healthy relationship. These are the people who do have those communication skills, the emotional intelligence. And when I say secure people, I mean all of us. We can all work towards this space while also keeping our superpowers, of course, as these relationship archetypes. The more you kind of do this deeper inner healing work on yourself, the more attractive and attracted you will be to more securely individuals, and you will not get the ick so much with them. So that's all I have for you today on the wind archetype, aka avoidant attachment style. So let me know if this has been helpful for you in gaining a deeper level of understanding of how you operate in relationships, or how your avoidant partner operates in relationships. Part 3 is about the sun archetype, aka the fearful avoidant attachment style. So be sure to listen into that as well if that's something that you also resonate with. All right, my loves, wishing you a beautiful day, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for joining me on the Relationship Rehab podcast. I hope that this episode has supported you in healing, growing, and evolving out of insecure attachment and unhealthy relationship patterns, and into safe, authentic love with yourself and others. If you enjoyed the episode, it would mean the absolute world to me if you would just take a second to rate and review this podcast Every rating and review from you guys counts, as it really helps this podcast to grow so it can reach more people who need to hear this content. And don't forget to connect with me on social media. Take a screenshot of this podcast episode, share it on your IG stories, and tag me at the.relationship.rehab with your biggest takeaway from the episode. I really do love reading them. See you back here next week for another episode on the Relationship Rehab podcast.